Michael Bolger. Happy New Year, love. I love you.
Happy New Year.
I just got back from Costa Rica and I spent a lovely time.
You look great.
Thank you, with my family.
Relaxed and tanned and centered.
And hot and pretty and sophisticated and drop dead gorgeous, and you can barely hold your breath.
That'll wear off soon though, trust me. Put a little Vaseline on that lens.
Well, baby, gravity's a bitch.
Gravity is a bitch.
Now, let's talk about Shelley Winters.
Shelley Winters. You know, I'm pretty blessed in the area of Shelley Winters because I bet you if we walked around this restaurant where we're sitting right now and talked about Shelley Winters, unless somebody here is over 60, they don't even know who the fuck Shelley Winters is. They would think it was a new rock band or something. Hey, yeah, I got the new album, Shelley Winters. Shelley Winters was hands down one of the heavyweights of the acting world. No pun intended, because she dealt with weight her whole life. She was a powerhouse actress. She came from Brooklyn. She was a regular person. She was a human being. She cared. She loved the craft of acting, and she loved actors. She loved people if they had talent and if they had curiosity and if they were willing to do the work and if they were willing to do what they had to do to get to the next level. She hated mediocrity. She hated meanness and she hated bullshit.
She would hate me.
No, she would have loved you, actually. She would have loved you because you would have talked to her about your father, and she probably would have loved your father, and then she could have been your mother. That's another story. So, the thing with Shelley was an acquired taste. You either loved her or you hated her. She was a mouthy broad from Brooklyn who was intelligent as all get out, went to Russia, went to Beslavsky, knew about Stanislavski, studied her craft, knew her craft, worked with people like George Stevens, knew Gatch, knew all these people. They were her peers, they were her friends, they were her co-creators. They all grew up together. They were part of a place called the Actor Studio that came from the group theater, that they knew about the work, they knew about the moments, they knew about the privacy, they knew about the pain, they knew about the cost, they knew about the price. They knew what they were doing. And if they saw talent in whatever form, they would encourage it and they would get behind it, because it's like shucking for oysters. Everyone wants to be an actor, but there's not a pearl in every oyster. So when you're pursuing an acting career, which is a lifelong pursuit, sometimes you don't get married, sometimes you don't achieve wealth, but you believe in your talent and you believe in the fact that this is what you were born to be a natural communicator, which is what actors are. And when Shelley saw that, she would swoop in and say, hey, I'm going to spend a little time here. She was the most giving, most caring, most loving person. Out of her mind, batshit fucking crazy. But beyond that, who isn't? Number one, hello. And number two, she cared. She would feed you. She would scold you. She would challenge you. She would break you down. She would lift you up. And she would give you a pat on the back if you were willing to do the work, because it's all about doing the work, no matter what you want to do in life. You want to be a great boxer? You got to do the road work. You got to hit the bag. You got to work on your rudiments. You got to work on your footwork. You got to watch your diet. You got to get some sleep. You got to eat right. You got to set your mind straight. You got to keep all those demons away. You want to be a great actor? Same thing. Got to do the road work. Got to pay your dues. Got to make the rounds. Got to be told no so many times that the only thing you're going to hear is yes. Got to, the old Robert Johnson jazz musicians used to say, you've got to suffer if you want to sing the blues. Now I'm trying not to go into rage or anger because I just want to talk from my heart here, and you touch on a tender subject, because Shelley Winters was my teacher. Shelley Winters told me one time, Yazoo! Shelley Winters told me one time, honey, it's called show business. You've got the show, but you don't know the first fucking thing about business. She was right. Shelley Winters told me one time, take out a pen, write on your wrist, listen, because you don't know how to listen. I still don't know how to listen. And any great actor or any actor will tell you that the art and the key to acting is listening. She made me take out a big pen, a big blue pen, and she made me write listen on my wrist. And I said to her, why do you have me, lady, writing on my wrist in ink, listen? She said, because every time you get into a situation, especially in acting, listen. And she said, that'll wash off with time, that'll wash off in the shower, but for the rest of your life, you'll see on your wrist, listen. And she said, when you're in an acting situation on stage or on camera, stop for a moment and listen, because those are the real moments. During the 50s, what a lot of people don't know and a lot of people don't want to talk about, because she's not even acknowledged by anybody anymore. She really isn't. And it's criminal.
And she should be.
It's sacrilegious and it's sad. She used to put her money in Israeli war bonds. She told me, Golda Meir. Golda Meir was her friend. And she used to take, every time she did a movie, and she worked all the time for a long time, she used to send money to the studio to keep the studio going, because she thought that the importance of the studio was that it needed to be there, and it needed to continue, and it needed to be there to give kids with dreams, kids from broken homes, kids with broken hearts.
And she would teach for no money, right?
No money whatsoever. And she said to me one time, you know, Chekhov said a passion and a plank. All we need is a stage. So she convinced the people next door to the studio, the new dramatist, to give her the space for free. And she taught all the working observers, not the members,
right,
not the finalists, the working observers. We would work with her all summer for free. And on this particular summer, it was the summer of 1984 or 85. She was one of Johnny Carson's best friends and one of Johnny Carson's favorite guests. And as we came to the end of the summer of this class, she told all of us, honey, I'm going out to do probably one of my last appearances on Johnny Carson. And when I get out there, I'm going to say all your names on that show. So tell all your parents who probably aren't talking to you or are mad at you, because none of you have jobs and you're all broke, to watch Johnny Carson. And guess what? She did. He said to her, so what's going on? And she said, I'm working with these kids in New York, and they're so excited, and they're so vibrant, and they're diversified, and they're different, and they're incredible, and they're talented, and here we go. And she named our names. She started naming our names on the Johnny Carson show. That was Shelley Winters. Mm-hmm. She cared. If you were fucking up, she told you. If you were in need of help, she told you. She always said to me, and I'm going to be very honest here, she said, honey, you need to get into some form of therapy. I couldn't hear that now, but I'm still not, but life will do that to you. She was right. She knew that I was getting sober and I was kicking drugs. I remember when I was in her class, I was working on Night of the Iguana. Great play, Tennessee Williams. And I was playing Shannon. And it was the scene where he's sort of, I think it was, what do you call those things that you string between the tree? A hammock. And he was having the DTs. And I was just about having the DTs. And I was in this hammock and I was doing the scene, and I forget the girl that was working with me. And when the scene was over, I had committed so emotionally to what I was going through personally that I literally was fucking trembling and like jonesing, and like the demons were just banging on the drums and hitting the cymbals. And afterwards, because I was her key student, when the class was over, we used to get in the cab, and I used to make sure she got home, and I would walk all the way home. Never asked her for cab fare, never asked her for anything, because I would walk home, and I could remember those years, a very different New York City from now. I would walk up 72nd, down Columbus, all the way over to Broadway, walk past Lincoln Center, and the vibrancy of, wow, I'm living my dream, I'm doing it, I'm with one of the best of all time. She believes in me, she thinks I got it. And on that particular night when we were in the cab, afterwards I said to her, you didn't say very much tonight when I did that scene. And she said, when it's right, there's nothing to be said. She said, and this isn't me blowing my own horn, because anyone who pursues acting's got a gift and has moments of brilliance. She said, I've never seen anything like that, because it was real. She was sad that a lot of people thought she was a clown. I don't think they properly gave her her respect. I don't think that they realized her greatness, but that happens naturally in life, that when generations change and people get older and you're not de rigueur and you go out of style.
It is a human condition, John. It happens everywhere.
Exactly.
Correct.
But for those of you out there, and you know who you are, 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 who we sat in that class in that August, in that sweltering heat, in the New Dramatists, and we were sweating, and it was humid, and we were yearning and burning and turning and learning from Shelley Winters. And every one of us, I can guarantee you, still carries to this day a piece of what that woman said to us, because she cared, and she cared enough to, if she really believed in you, she would get furious at the fact that you weren't reaching your potential, or you weren't digging deeper. She said to us one time, remember when you were all kids on the beach and you were digging a hole in the sand, and your parents would always say, if you keep digging deep enough, you're going to pop out in China, which is funny now, right, when you think about that. She used to say, never settle. If you're working on something, or you're in a play, or you're working, never settle. Dig a little deeper, because there's always something underneath that will add the layers. She spoke about keeping notes in the ledger and on the side of your scripts. She spoke about the importance of the beat between every word. She said a great playwright will write a play. It's a roadmap to get from New York to California. But between every word of a great playwright, she spoke about Arthur Miller, her friend, Tennessee Williams, her friend, all of them her friends. She said, study that text, because forget the subtext, between every word, there's something, there's a little surprise, there's a little moment, there's a little something that informs what's about to happen and maybe what's about not to happen. She was so incredible. She said to all of us, kids, I want you to remember this. Some of you are going to make it to camera, and some of you are not going to make it to camera. You'll end up in theater. For those of you who make it to camera, I always want you to remember, when on camera, speak low and think loud. Speak low and think loud, because that camera will get it. When in the theater, make sure they can hear you in the back row. So if you have a good script, you have a good director, you have a nice cast, what more do you need to know? Cagney said, plant your feet, look the other person in the eyes, and tell the truth. Spencer Tracy said, if you bump into something, acknowledge it. Shelley Winters said, speak low and think loud.
What about Brando, the bust?
She had a bust made when Brando Brando, she called him Bud. She didn't call him Marlon. She called him Bud. And they were very good friends. She was a big supporter of his and a good friend of his. Although they were both wackadoodle, I think in essence they were probably both a lot alike in a way. But she loved him and she cared for him, and she had this in her house in Beverly Hills. She had a bust of him that she had made when he was doing Julius Caesar. And it was so incredibly lifelike that you almost thought, if you looked over, like, wow, Marlon's in the room. And she kept it. It was one of her prized possessions because she cared about him so much. And I don't know enough about how their friendship ended up. I know they were friends. She was friends with everybody. She knew everybody, everywhere we went.
And she was one of the best moderators at the studio as well.
She
right?
was the best moderator
So was
at the studio.
Geraldine Page.
Geraldine Page. Well, there's another one, man. Geraldine Page.
A great one.
If you met her when you were walking to the studio on a Tuesday or Friday morning on the street, and this is with all due respect, you would think she was a homeless lady. But she was so brilliant, and she was brilliant in what she would say. She didn't come that much. There was a time when Shelley was there a lot. You know, the first scene she told me to work on was a scene by Clifford Odets called The Good People. Then she told me to work on Waiting for Lefty. She said, you're brusque and rough and this and that, but you try to find gentle stuff too. Show a little gentleness, because they don't get you, and they won't get you. She told me laying on her couch in her house in Beverly Hills that they would never get me because they could never control me. You see, people who come to the studio or anywhere in life, to a job, to a military, anywhere, if they can't control you, they can't figure you out. They try to induce you to become a part of them, and if you refute that, then you have to go. What she told me about that they never, she basically said to me, I'm not going to be able to protect you. Because if she cared about people, and you know who you are, she protected you. She took care of you. She stood up for you. She stood for you. She fought for you. Incredible. People should go and get her 2 books, Shelley 1 and Shelley 2. Look at her movies, look at her performances, and remember Shelley Winters. You know, they say you're only dead when you're forgotten. I've never forgotten you, Shelley Winters, and I never will. A girl named Shirley. Thank you.